50 years ago, at the height of the global anti-apartheid movements, students of the University of Sussex in the United Kingdom campaigned for the establishment of the Mandela Scholarships to protest against the injustices of that time and raise the profile of then-imprisoned former President Nelson Mandela's struggle for freedom. The university was known as a hub of anti-apartheid activity movements, with prominent South African students, including former Constitutional Justice Albie Sachs, former President Thabo Mbeki, the late former Minister Essop Pahad, making notable contributions. So over the years, the university has collaborated with the South African government on education and research programs, and many Mandela scholars have continued to make a difference. So here in South Africa, to talk more about the Mandela Scholarship and relations between the University of Sussex and South Africa, we are joined in studio by Professor Sasha Roseneil, who's the Vice-Chancellor and President of the University of Sussex. Such a pleasure to have you. Welcome.
Good morning, great to be here.
And of course your first visit to South Africa as well, which makes this even more special. Your first impressions, you were telling me earlier you used to spend a lot of time protesting in the days outside of the South African embassy, in the days when apartheid was here in South Africa, and here you are in the country.
So that was a long time ago when I was a student. And it's wonderful to be visiting South Africa for the first time, and especially to be doing it as Vice-Chancellor of the University of Sussex, because South Africa has a hugely important place in our mental worlds at Sussex. It's probably the single most important country to us at Sussex.
And I mean, when you look back at the history of the University of Sussex and the relationship that they had with global anti-apartheid movement, and provided refuge for many South Africans as well that went there, and the freedom fighters, and I mentioned them in the introduction, who were there during exile in the apartheid years. Tell us a little bit about the relationship and the history.
So Sussex was established as the first of a set of new universities in the early 1960s. And Thabo Mbeki was one of our first students, so before the campus was really built. And he politicised that early generation of students, fellow students, about apartheid. And over time, students started to protest about apartheid, and one of the first things that they wanted to do was set up a scholarship to bring South African students to Sussex to get the experience of an education at Sussex and to be part of the Sussex community. And they persuaded the university at that time to waive the fees, and also because it was difficult to get out of South Africa, to let students apply very often without formal qualifications and also without revealing their identities publicly at the time. Yeah. So there was a whole generation of Mandela scholars who came to Sussex over the years, who in time went back to be part of the new South Africa and to build the post-apartheid world.
Quite incredible, actually. I mean, this is going back to 1973, because we're talking about the 50th anniversary here. Obviously, things have changed. The country has changed, moved forward since the injustices of apartheid, which unfortunately is still something that the country is battling with, as it tries to move forward. But let's talk about how Sussex University has continued with the vision of Mandela.
So, I mean, I think one of the things that Sussex is most known for, we're #1 in the world for development studies. So we have a kind of really long-standing commitment to global social justice, to sustainability, to trying to meet and really contribute to the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. And as part of that, we are part of trying to make the world a better place. And so that long-term relationship with South Africa is a really important part of that, and that's why we're here now. We're here to see how we can bring what we're good at Sussex to be part of kind of building capacity in South Africa. And we've got a set of meetings with the Nelson Mandela Foundation, with your various different research foundations, research councils, and with government ministries to look at how we could perhaps develop some new doctoral partnerships, PhD partnerships, to be part of building research capacity in South Africa.
That would be incredible. I mean, and I think that a lot of these institutions would welcome something like that, because when we look around and we look at the the world in totality, I mean, I don't think we can isolate ourselves or the UK or anywhere, but we look around this world and we tend to feel that there's a lack of substance leadership, where we look and there's just this void at the moment where the world is in turmoil. And when you try and find those leaders that, I mean, this kind of leader that we talk about, Nelson Mandela, there's a void. And, you know, this is a major problem. I would love to hear how sort of that leadership is something that is immersed into the university and some of the work that you may be working on here as well.
Well, I mean, if you take the Mandela Scholars who've come to Sussex over the years, and there've been about 90 of them now, they've come from South Africa to Sussex and spent often several years at Sussex as part of our community. And very often what they've done there, as well as their academic studies, is they've met young people from around the rest of the world. Sussex is an incredibly international university. At any one time, we always have students from about 120, 130 different countries. So students are coming to Sussex and they're meeting the kind of future leaders of the rest of the world as well. And then they've been coming back to South Africa and being part of government, of public administration. They've been entrepreneurs, they've set up new companies, new businesses, they've run NGOs. And those connections that they've made with people from other countries have been part also of the kind of global networks that are really changing the world. So there's something about coming overseas to study for people at a particular moment in their lifetimes that can be really transformative and really develop leadership skills for them, as well as giving them an opportunity to learn, you know, in depth a particular area of study. But it's those skills that people get by travelling abroad, spending time abroad, the kind of personal development that I think also becomes so important for leadership.
It's huge. The perspective that you get through travelling, as they say, it's not something you can learn from a book.
No. And you can't learn it quickly either.
No,
you know, it is about spending time. You know, all those evenings that our Mandela Scholars have spent sitting, chatting with students from Costa Rica, from China, from Japan, and learning in depth about other people's experiences and building friendships and personal networks that go on to be with them through the rest of their lives.
I mean, one would think that sort of, I mean, from what I've read, I mean, the University of Sussex, particularly in the early 70s, was very much so seen as a home for radical thinking, for Afrocentric perspectives. Has this continued? Is it something that we still see happening at the university?
It is. I mean, I think we talk at Sussex about how we were set up to do things differently. You know, we were set up as an alternative to Oxford and Cambridge. We, from the very beginning, challenged conventional disciplines, the sort of 19th century disciplines, and had a very strong emphasis on interdisciplinarity. So one of the distinctive things that happened at Sussex is we set up African studies very early on, post-colonial studies. And Sussex was looking out to the kind of changes that were taking place in the world in the sort of 60s and 70s. And, you know, trying to understand those, theorise them, and offer new ways of thinking to the world in a kind of post-colonial era. And Sussex has carried on thinking in that way, you know, putting social justice and sustainability at the heart of everything that we do.
Yeah, I mean, if we go back to the first anti-apartheid struggle activist who came to do the scholar, he was the recipient there, John Gaetsiwe, in September 1976. I mean, that was the very first one to come and study engineering. I imagine that he paved the way for a lot of South Africans to follow in his footsteps. I mean, that was a wonderful moment, no doubt.
Absolutely, and we've had Mandela Scholars since then who've done a whole range of different subjects. You know, we don't decide for them what they should do, so they've come and studied engineering, they've come and studied development studies, economics. More recently, we've got students who've been doing courses in gender, conflict and violence, innovation and sort of science policy, sustainable energy, that's a particular interest at the moment. We've got a lot of research going on around energy transitions and sustainability, and a lot of interest from South African students in those issues.
I'm very happy to hear that, because we need that. We desperately need that. I want to ask you, I mean, what do you look for in a student? Because I'm sure there's so many people watching and saying, I would do anything for this opportunity. How do you choose those that qualify for these scholarships?
Well, I mean, we try to be open to a whole range of different backgrounds, and it's, you know, to choose students, scholarships are always competitive. We want more scholarships, and one of the things that we're here talking to people about is how can we really grow our Mandela Scholarship scheme. We want to be able to take far more students from South Africa. We want people who are ambitious, not just for themselves, but for the countries they come from. You know, that's one of the things we're really looking for in our global scholars at Sussex, because we don't want people who just, you know, come to Britain and take everything for themselves. That's a huge part of it, the personal change people go through, but we want students who are going to go back and change the places they came from and be part of building better worlds for the collective. So we're looking for that in our students, and we're looking for kind of energy and you know, dynamism, and a commitment to their studies, of course. But really, at the moment, we're very keen to grow the number of scholars we have under the Mandela Scholarship scheme, and we're talking to a whole range of people whilst we're here about how we can do that, and particularly looking at how we can grow the postgraduate and research side of that, because we know that South Africa needs that. You know, you need more people with PhDs who are going to grow the future research base of the country and the innovation that the country needs, the sort of business and entrepreneurship as well.
Fantastic. So currently, how many South Africans do you have at the university on the scholarship? Any at the moment?
Yeah, we've got two at the moment.
Two at the moment.
Okay. We would rather have more. We definitely want more, but we have two at the moment.
All right. So if anybody, I mean, as a matter of interest, if they want to try their luck, to try and apply and get there, how do they go about that?
Get on our website and have a look, see, it's all on the website.
Fantastic.
So yeah, University of Sussex website.
Well, I wish you the best of luck with your trips. It's been such a fantastic sort of, you know, idea and a history with the university, and I hope it continues to thrive, and especially with some of the ideas that you're looking at and the meetings you've got, and particularly when it comes to research. I think we need that, we really do. So thank you. Pleasure meeting you and pleasure chatting to you as well. This was Professor Sasha Roseneil, who's the Vice-Chancellor and President of the University of Sussex, talking to us about the 50th anniversary of the Mandela Scholarship and the relations between the university and South Africa. Go to the website, you never know, you may be one of those lucky individuals that can get that scholarship to study further.